So let's talk money. Okay, let's talk money. There are different philosophies that we're back to the magic topics, and talking about money early is very, very important. So I really like several things that I'm going to share with you. I am a fan about disclosing pricing on websites. Now, I know there's all kinds of reasons that people don't do it, and there's an argument to be made that the higher end product and service you have, the less likely it is, because if you buy a Birkin bag, it's not going to always lead with it's this many $1,000s, right? Their luxury items often don't disclose prices. There's an old adage that says, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Okay, so some people believe that. I believe that in most cases, now, because of the way buyers expect to research before they get on a call with us, I like there to be some kind of qualifying pricing. So I'm going to give you several examples of how that could be. You could have minimum pricing on your site. And minimum would be project start at X. But I saw a friend of mine is a graphic designer, and I saw on her site that she's had this lovely little grid, and it had 3 or 4 kinds of typical projects they do. And it said, starts at 6,000, starts at 10,000, starts at 12,000, starts at 25,000. You see what I'm saying? So it was a grid. And when it says starts at, I do not feel in any way, shape, or form like I can't sell something that's twice that much. I mean, if they keep adding to the list and the value of what they want is higher, all you've done is qualify out on minimum pricing. And I like that. So those of you that have put in the chat, or who are thinking, I don't like talking about pricing, I want to get it out there as early as possible, because I don't want to take a call with someone who won't pay the minimum pricing. If you can't afford to join one of my groups or to come to one of my conferences, then I have a book that's $15 on Amazon, and I have YouTube, and I have practically free resources to serve you. Like, I have other ways of serving you. But if we're going to do a call, I want you to self-qualify and say, I understand there's at least this involved. Okay, so I'm a super huge fan of minimum pricing. I also do minimum pricing on if I can, the very first call, for sure the second call, or in my follow-up email. And I literally say, based on what little information I have so far, projects like this tend to start at X. And then I'm just quiet, because I think one of the worst mistakes people make, and there are sales training systems that teach people to do this, so I'm going to put this on the line and just say, I really disagree with this philosophy. Some people teach, if you have a well-done proposal and you give 2 or 3 choices, that you don't have to have this money conversation earlier, because they're going to choose something on the sheet, and that's the beauty of a well-designed proposal. And I do not agree, because I think your time is valuable, and I think you should talk about money early, because if they have a money story where they believe that's expensive, or they don't understand the value, you have to sell on value anyway. You have to have a longer conversation before you send the proposal. That proposal cannot sell all the value for you. The point of the proposal is for them to have something to pass around, because there's multiple people involved. Okay, and so I really feel strongly that you want to have a verbal conversation, even though you might be uncomfortable practicing it, because you don't want to surprise them later. They're going to think that's bait and switch. They're going to think that's not good human behavior. And it could have been a philosophical reason. It could have been because you're afraid. It could be all kinds of reasons you waited, but I don't think it's good to wait. So I've just put out all that information saying, here's what I think. It's like, what is it going to mean to that company in terms of increasing their profits? So it's a scale. If you can think fast enough on the call by comparing them to someone comparable, you could anchor on that number. You could say, there's more information that we both need. And whenever you can say and instead of but. Okay, always say and, right? And because you want to keep them open, right? No opposition. This is already a sensitive subject to some people. So you want to say, and a project that it's coming to mind that sounds like this was X. And you are setting an anchor, but you have now said, I've done this before. It was someone like you. And based on what we've said so far, this is what I think, but I reserve the right to change that as we learn more.
Yeah.
But if you say 45,000 and they're like, I was thinking 4,500, you don't want a second call.
Right. Yeah, that's
You
right.
want them to freak out and say, oh, that is not what I was thinking. And this is why I love our referral community. And you want as fast as you can to say, I know a wonderful solopreneur who would probably do a great job for you that you should talk to next. And you give them the name and number and you get off the call,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they are going to spend a fraction of what it's going to take to work with your team. So some of it is if you can think that, just think in real time that quickly. If you can't, I think you could do it as a call one follow-up and say, I've been thinking about our conversation. And because you shared, you've not set aside resources for this. To me, it's feeling like at least in the range of at least this. On our next call, I'd like to explore question. And then you see if they're willing to take that call.
I love it. That's great.
Okay, good. So choice one is if I can think of something comparable, I would give a number and I would just sit there quietly and see what they do. And if I can't think fast enough, you can say, I'd like to think about that some more. In my follow-up email, I'm going to give you kind of a baseline based on this early conversation. That'll at least give you something to work with to decide if it makes sense for us to keep talking.
I love that.
Good. Good. Any other suggestions for Richard? Like, what have you tried? I'm sure you're not the only one on the call is like, I don't want to talk about this. We've got to talk about this.
I ask very similar questions around like the initial money. They normally say, I don't know, or not sure. And I give a very broad range on the first call. And then I tell them the factors that play into the cost are X, X, and X. And so they start to understand, because a lot of people get on with us and they don't understand like what makes it more expensive or less expensive, right? So I say, the factors for the cost are the number of data sources that you're working with. The factors are, I go through like a list of 2 or 3 things. So they start to have an idea. And actually, we won a deal a few weeks ago, and he circled back and said, you were the only provider that was upfront with us about cost from the very beginning. And that's why one of the main reasons we went with you is we felt like you were transparent, you were honest and authentic with us from the very beginning. So it's like, it's so hard to have those conversations, but I think people really appreciate it. And so.
That's so great. I think everyone on here could think, what is their XYZ that affects price? Okay. Because to Richard's earlier point, it shouldn't just be my time. Your time is a factor, but it's also, what does this mean to them? What kind of research is this going to take? What kind of additional resources? What kind of brain power, right? We don't want to just think about a time money equation, because what happens is you get better and better and better, and you're paid for your expertise. That's why a plumber gets to charge a full rate when they come in and they fix something in 10 minutes. It's because it took 30 years to learn how to do it in 10 minutes. Right? You've heard painter examples, you've heard other examples. So it's not just about time, but what is your XYZ? Because if you could basically give away what factors you're going to be considering in the pricing, they can assist you with that information. That's so powerful, Alyssa. I love that.